What up, database? David Olson here, back with another movie discussion. As I said last time, we're doing Steven Seagal's On Deadly Ground.
On Deadly Ground, that movie.
And Pitt's here as usual. Now
Hi everyone.
before we get started, so let's just kind of get like the history and like how this movie came about, and what I think kind of led up to this. So basically, what this film is a environmentally aware action movie, which that premise is already dead on arrival, even though it is original, because it doesn't work. And there's a movie, and let's just say the 90s were full of environmentally conscious things. Like we had Captain Planet and Ferngully and the Vale video game Awesome Possum and stuff like that. But unfortunately, when it comes to environmental things, and this is not popular, most of them don't do things very good. With this thing being one of them, unfortunately. So, despite that premise, does that make it? You might wonder, what does that make it? Make it, still make it terrible? Let's find out. So basically, Steven Seagal plays this oil firefighter named Forrest Taft, who's apparently ex-CIA or ex-NSA or something like that. They only mention that later in the film, but there's really not any focus on it that much. So after this, like, and what seems to be, like another oil rig fire, Forrest's crabby friend Hugh, played by Richard Hamilton, says that the preventers or something are to blame for the faulty preventers are to blame for this, and that Michael Jennings, played by Michael Caine, I don't know, we'll get to him in a minute, and it's told them to use the faulty stuff anyway because I don't know why.
Because money, right?
Yep, and just being cheap, and which faulty preventers in any sort of thing, I believe that's a huge violation, I think, of OSHA compliant laws. Oh, we'll get to the law to the laws broken in a little bit. So let's just get to the point here. Basically, Hugh, along with Forrest, they find out some information, and of course Jennings doesn't want it to get out there because ruining business,
Yeah, but ruining business, oh no.
So they pretty much sends like his advisor. And some other guy there to pretty much go torture Hugh excessively for information and just flat out kill him. okay. Another movie where people are killing people over oil and natural resources. Unfortunately, that's a story as old as history itself. But either way, let's just get to the point here. They attempt to kill Forrest by attempting to blow him up, but then he gets rescued by the natives. Oh, I'm sorry, Eskimos. But and they get taken to like their little village or whatever, or camp, whatever. And he meets up with basically this Native American activist is Masu, played by Joan Chen, which is not fitting at all, considering I think Joan Chen is Chinese and not native. But either way, that's besides the point. So basically, they think that Forrest is Seagal is some great spirit or something. In order to find it, they literally decide to put him on a sacred journey, which pretty much just ends up, once they put him to sleep, pretty much a mescaline, what you would probably call a mescaline trip would ensue.
Oh yeah, I remember that scene.
And then it's basically, though it drags on for a bit, it eventually gets to the point where there's a choice. Forrest must choose between a really young, attractive, like native woman symbolizing evil, and an old one symbolizing good. Good. So basically, he chooses the old Eskimo woman. They say he's the chosen one to fight against for Mother Earth, against the evils of oil. Okay, and you might wonder, how's he gonna take care of this? I mean, they got all the evidence, and also, before I get to that, so after that, they go back to Hugh's cabin, which is completely wrecked.
Oh yeah, they just destroyed that place.
Looking for that stuff. So then he finds the backpack that is mentioned earlier, that Seagal had stashed there. That had stashed there with a change of clothes and guns, and also the discontinued information. Okay, bull crap. Okay, first of all, if they had trashed the place that good, they would have found it. They would have found it from how bad they trashed the place. But plot convenience, right?
Yeah, plot convenience.
And so, and meanwhile, like Jennings and like the rest of and his little cronies, they realize that like they decide to hire mercenaries to try to find and kill Forrest. And the mercenaries are led by the late R. Lee Ermey. And let's just talk about the acting for a second. R. Lee Ermey is probably the best actor in this movie, because he's actually trying. Seagal's performance is bad because when it has it not been bad? And Michael Caine's is probably the worst. So bad so that it's literally laughable. It's laughable, and I can't really say much about Joan Chen because, honestly, compared to everyone else, she doesn't get much of any lines. Well, compared to everyone else.
Yeah, so.
Lines, but so let's get to the point. After basically, in order to fight against the evils of oil, he plans to do industrial sabotage. Hush. We'll get into let's, and a little later, let's look at the laws he had broken and just see, and let's see how long, like if convicted, how long would Steven Seagal's character Forrest go to prison?
I think you go to prison for a long time, probably.
But we'll get to that later. Basically, do industrial sabotage, but Masu says we have all the evidence. Let's contact the press. Let's go to the authorities. There doesn't need to be any more violence, and Seagal basically just says, "You really think all this stuff is gonna help us now? No. Now, maybe, like, angels will stop the millions of oil that are being spilled in the oceans every year. Maybe, like, Spirit will flip the big switch, and all the technology that's been repressed for the last 70 years will be ours, and it'll be a better place to live." I didn't want to resort to violence. I don't have a choice, which is completely false, by the way.
I mean, violence is just a more awesome way to go, though.
Yeah, if you, especially in this situation, if you want to go to prison for a long time, if not for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you know how all these action movies work. The hero blows up entirety of a facility, kills a ton of people, but at the end he's hailed as a hero. You know how it works.
He's like, so I don't have a choice, and I'm not taking any chances this time. Pretty much all that response was he was acting like a little kid, not wanting to hear anything, and just going blah 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 with his finger in his ears, So yeah, let's talk about some of this environmentalist stuff. Now, we're not going to go into big detail because a lot of it is considered political, and I don't really discuss political stuff on this channel. So now let's just put it this way, and some of the stuff they're claiming oil has done, especially this journalist who was talking about, saying, we want to talk about the stuff before Asia's oil came to town. Yeah. Came to town. The increased risk of skin cancer, women who fail to ovulate, and when they do, they give birth to abnormal babies. Okay, first of all, I've seen tons of environmental stuff over the years, and not once have I heard that.
That's a new one.
Which I have never even heard of. So, but either way, let's just get to the point here. So So Seagal like goes to the new oil facility, which there was a huge argument with Michael Caine's character because he was rushing to get this oil plant built in 13 days, because if 13 years expired, that land rights that they promised them for 20 years to be exact, it would go right back to the natives. My question is, what were you doing for 20 years?
That is what I want to know. Yeah, because if they own that land for 20 years, so they just sitting there chilling, just like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, what? So they managed to get it pretty much operational. Of course, probably cutting corners at this point, if that's not already proven enough. So first he goes in there with this is the most stupidest thing ever. He literally finds a plastic bottle and tapes it to his handgun to make a makeshift suppressor. Okay, bullcrap. Okay, first of all, he'd only get one shot out of it, which he does. I will give him credit for at least taking that into consideration. Because for one, the way he taped it, the gun would not cycle the next round, and two, one shot in that bottle would have been done for. And it would make a bigger hole than it shows, considering that caliber of gun he had. So either way, he basically goes out and starts dinking with everything. He's just fighting off a bunch of the mercenaries, and two of them are just on top of a platform, and they're just blabbing away on how killing them would feel so good and stuff like. In video games, you hear the guards talk about silly things.
I know, right? In video games, if you just sit and listen, you can hear some side conversation.
And some of them are silly. That's basically what this is. Now, so he basically starts doing everything, and he tells the innocent oil workers that he's saying the place is going to blow, you might want to get out of there. That's not suspicious at all.
I know, right? That's so suspicious.
That's not suspicious at all, because so basically he ends up so Seagal ends up killing Jennings. I will admit, though it's anticlimactic, it's a little more creatively done than Contract to Kill was. He basically has him hanging upside down, and then he's like, shoot me, you know? He's like, I wouldn't dirty my bullets against you. Against you. And then Masu's like, dirty one for me, Forrest. I think that's completely abandoning the point. A point about his little spiritual enlightenment. So he shoots him down, and he falls into like a little pool of oil sludge.
And then I'll let you continue. I was about to say something, but you can continue.
No, say your part.
Yeah, and then what happens is he just blows up the entire place, right? The whole place just goes boom.
Yeah, and let's talk about for that something. Wouldn't putting all that blowing up an oil rig cause even more pollution than just letting the rig run itself?
Yeah, that was pollution. And now I think about it, because it's getting everywhere at this point. You're blowing it up, it's getting everywhere, releasing fumes into the air.
And including releasing oil into the water.
I know, right? It's getting into the water, it's getting everywhere.
Whereas, so yeah, if anyone's gonna teach us about environmentalism, it sure as heck is not gonna be Seagal, and considering what he does.
I know, Seagal's idea of environmentalism is blow up an oil rig and just cause even more destruction.
Would seem to me, and speaking, let's go back to R. Lee Ermey. He just starts, basically, I mean, his death is pretty anticlimactic too, because all he had to do was shoot, but no, he goes up to them, goes up to Seagal with a shotgun and threatens him, and then he gets his gun flipped and used against him.
I know, that was pretty anticlimactic. I was expecting some big, huge battle to go on, but no.
And let's go back to the native village for a moment. Basically, Masu's father, who's like the leader of the tribe. Basically, you know, like Jennings, like cronies, they go there just to search the village to make sure, just in case Seagal is still alive, and then they find an empty jacket, which is not conclusive proof at all. And pretty much Masu's father just ends up getting shot for pretty much no reason. And so, and let's put this way, basically, his cronies meet, I'd say the one who pulled the trigger meets the most gruesome end. And because he tries to escape in a helicopter, but Seagal grabs him, and after he tries to say, "Oh, I can help you take them all down," you know? Of course, Seagal doesn't take the offer and puts his face in the helicopter propeller.
Oh, yeah.
And Lyles, the secretary, who's played by Sherry Shattuck, she just crashes in, so like an oil pipe or something, and then it catches fire and blows her up. Speaking of which, she made a stupid comment earlier when talking about the mercenaries. They're saying they did it in the Philippines and I can't remember where else, you know? And they're like, those are third world countries. And she's like, Alaska is a third world country. No, it's not. It is a state in the United States. It's underdeveloped, yeah. It's one of the more undeveloped states, but it's not a third world country.
I mean, yeah, they're definitely not a third world nation.
Heck, we all
must be rich.
And heck, we all know the USA is not a third world country. Oh, country, like I said. All right, so Alaska may be a more undeveloped because it's more land than actual civilization. But that doesn't make it a third world country, now does it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, there are some states out there, though, that do seem like they could be seen some third world nations.
Sure, they could be. But either way. So either way, let's just wrap up the story and then let's talk about just how long you know, like Seagal would be in trouble for. So basically, so of course, like they blow it up, and then the ending is at the state capitol, where Forrest or Seagal is a speaker out environmentally safe options, which, okay, why would he be a speaker after what he had just done? Because there's no way he would get away with that.
Of course, but of course movie logic.
Of course, movie logic. And plus, literally, like, seriously, and why would you have a person who committed huge industrial sabotage, murder, terrorism, and pretty much bankrupting a big source of the economy, and as a speaker, I wouldn't, would you?
I mean, if I was doing a speech about some of the most destructive people ever, I mean, I'd be down.
But either way, he preaches, and he's not just talking to the people like in the room. He's talking to the audience, talking about the age-old environmentally safe stuff, and some of it is just conspiracy theory spouting. Like he's saying, oh, the oil companies influence the media to control our minds. Okay, the media does have biases, but it's more about money. It's not so much being influenced. And we know this all too well, don't we?
A lot of it is about money. But, I mean, you gotta admit, some of them are trying to purposely spread messages. A lot of them are, indeed.
Yeah, indeed, but the thing with Seagal, why his speech doesn't work here, is just the fact that it just doesn't seem like he's... Because, for one, he's doing it because of his ego and what he personally believes, but he's doing it in an egotistical way, and he's saying age-old things that we've heard for years and years since environmentally conscious stuff became popular. And that's like, we already know about, like the renewable energy and stuff like that, Dang, this film has not aged well at all. Has it?
Well, I guess it is a 90s made film, so it makes sense. It's not going to look too good in today's society.
Yeah, and not to mention, there are other things that would not fly today. Like, I mentioned Joe Chen. I think she's a Chinese woman playing a Native American. The use of old terms like Eskimo and stuff like that. And Eskimo was not created by the white settlers. I believe it was created by... That's basically what they would call rival tribes. That's what the tribes would call their rivals, Eskimos. I believe that's where that term came from. Don't hold me to it. Don't hold me to it, though, but either way... So, let's just give an overall thing of this. Is it bad? Absolutely. But it's ridiculous enough and entertaining enough that I actually recommend this one. I mean, it's fun for a laugh, though. And you can actually get it fairly cheap online. So I actually yeah, I actually recommend this one. Because despite how bad and how flat the film falls, it's actually entertaining and weird enough that it is worth watching once. Heck, I even still watch this every once in a while. Wow, so unlike, yeah, I recommend this one. Unlike Contract to Kill, which was just dull. So yeah. I actually recommend this one. What do you think?
I guess you can watch it if you so wish. I thought that it was just your typical '90s action movie.
Yeah, and as my friend Lieutenant Dummel Z from the Intrepid crew calls Seagal, he's a walking, breathing action movie cliche. So now let's get into the legalities. Let's see. Let's look up penalty for industrial sabotage. Okay. All right. So it is. All right. So let's just do here. It's a federal crime and is a major felony, obviously. So yeah, be careful. If you're planning sabotage, just don't do it. And it can land you in federal prison for up to 20 years if found guilty. Now I think that's for each count though. Let's just say he got 20 years for every single thing he blew up in that plant.
Okay.
Which already would be, which is already he's not getting, which adding up all that up, I can tell he's not getting out of there alive, and considering he killed Michael Caine, which, despite how corrupt he was, he's just doing his job. So he just murdered him, along with that other guy by putting his face into a propeller. Now keep in mind, their hands are not clean in the situation either, but does that matter in the court of law? Not really. Not really. So along with those murder charges, I'd say, and who says all those innocent oil workers got out alive?
A lot of them probably didn't.
So let's just put it this way. Adding those all together, I think he's going to be in prison for life, if not on death row for what he did.
Yeah, even life in prison or death row, that would only be like the possible punishments.
Yeah, and so it's... And apparently that speech he does at the end actually ran several times longer in the original cut of the film.
Okay.
Which, yeah, I wouldn't want to listen to that, would you?
I mean, I've only looked at it before.
Yeah, considering it's stuff we've already heard before. So yeah, it's just another kind of environmental, in general, it's an environmental movie that's stuck in the 90s, while the concept is original and environmentally aware action movie. The problem is it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work, and the premise is just dead on arrival. But like I said, I can't recommend this film enough. enough. Like this one, it may be bad, but it's 100% worth watching. Well, that concludes this discussion. And I don't have any set projects for the next discussion, but we'll see you in the next video.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Goodbye, my friends.